And just such a lesson for me to know that like when life throws you curveballs, you can still rise and thrive and come out on the other side of that more beautiful and more powerful than before. It's like if you can find the joy in those tiny moments, it just makes life magical. Just being out of it and just removing myself from that environment was a true, literal breath of fresh air. We all have that little voice inside of us that's saying, this isn't right. You are not crazy. You know what I mean? Like it's telling us all along.
Hello and welcome to Hello Moxie. Today I am joined by the lovely Kaitlyn Rios. Kaitlyn and I met through our mutual friend Andrew Stout on LinkedIn, and I'm so delighted to have her on the show. She recently started and founded a new nonprofit organization. So we'll get to hear all about that. Kaitlyn, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about you and
Sure.
who you are and what you love to do?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah.
My name is Kaitlyn Rios. Just to give you my background, I am a physical therapist by trade. I got my doctorate almost 10 years ago and became a certified wound care specialist a couple years back. But in the midst of that physical therapy career, I encountered a great deal of toxicity in the workplace. And, it led me to leave the stereotypical bedside. And now I'm working in medical device sales, selling wound care products. So I'm still connected to the wound care community in a way, but definitely in a different, more indirect, connection to the patients. So, but in that journey and facing the toxicity that I did face in multiple different settings with multiple different employers, I realized that it can't just be happening to me, right? I'm not alone in this. And the struggles that I went through relatively on my own. And I hit some pretty low points, and I didn't want other women to have to go through. So I created, like you mentioned, the nonprofit Face with Grace. And we are all about offering motivational mentorship and coaching to exceptional women, really to just see them through the navigation of toxic workplaces and help them to the other side of that, whatever that looks like. And then we also try to break the chains of toxicity by educating young women who have yet to enter the workforce, and just teach them all about healthy leadership and what healthy culture looks like and what red flags are, because they don't tell you that in school. So that is my journey in a nutshell.
Man, there's so many things I love about who you are and what you're doing and what you're building and the way that you're giving back. I think I can definitely relate personally to your own experience. And I think there's a lot of women who can and who are just afraid to talk about it, to be quite honest. And I think what you hit the nail on the head, it can be very isolating when you're in a situation, a toxic environment, wherever it may be. It can be very isolating. And a lot of times women don't even realize that they are in what would be considered toxic situations, because maybe it's all they were raised with or all they kind of knew or grew up with. So they've accepted that as kind of their normal or as normal. And so I think you hit the nail on the head about how important it is to educate women and men, everyone, about what the red flags are, so that we can realize, hey, there's a better way. This is, I don't have to be in this situation. This is not acceptable to be treated this way. And I deserve better than this. So,
well, and I could help women navigate toxicity all day long, but if I'm not doing anything to help combat it in the first place, and like I said, break those chains, what are we even doing? Right.
Yeah, it's so true.
Like that for sure.
I love your focus on identifying the red flags and educating people to be aware of them, because it benefits everyone when you do, because that's how workplaces change. Absolutely. If people are empowered and educated to create a better way, then they're going to be able to empower and educate the people around them to be able to say, hey, we can be at a higher standard here. We don't have to work at this level. So.
Exactly. You get it.
Well, when you've been there, right? Like when you've been there. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, Well, that's lovely. Well, what's lighting you up right now, Kaitlyn? I know you're being lit up by your lovely nonprofit. What else is lighting you up? What are you excited about with starting that or with what else is going on in your life?
Well, over the weekend, actually, I participated in a book launch. So I'm now a published author,
Yay!
which is a big
Oh
deal.
my gosh. Okay, tell me about your book. That's
Well, so
huge.
I'm a contributing author.
That still
And
counts. Like huge.
absolutely. And I am like surrounded by the most amazing women leaders. We do have one man in the book. But yeah, it was just like the most phenomenal launch. There was so much
Mm,
positivity and just uplifting motivation and inspiration. And oh, it was wonderful. But the book is called Shattering Stereotypes, Fiercely Forging Forward.
mm.
It's a collaboration between many different kinds of professionals, but we've all broken some kind of stereotype. And so each one of us have a chapter that explains the stereotype that we've shattered. And I cannot wait to hold the book in my hands. It's so exciting. So that was
Shattering
really
stereotypes. How
a
exciting. So
yeah.
can people find the book on Amazon
I
or where?
think we're in pre-order mode right now.
Uh-huh.
I can actually share the link with you if you'd like. That would
Yes,
be
please
so
for our
cool.
listeners. That'd be so
Yeah, I
lovely.
can do that.
Shattering stereotypes. So tell me about this book launch. I've actually never been to a book launch. So what was special about your
So
book launch?
ours was virtual. We're
Uh-huh.
actually doing a live one as well in Houston, Texas, at the end of May. But
Nice.
this one was really neat. We had like a really fun intro video that showed all of our authors that contributed, and everyone got to come up and speak a little bit about their chapter and why they were involved in the book.
Mm.
And it was magical. It was wonderful. I had goosebumps the whole time. I was smiling. My cheeks were hurting by the end of it. It was great.
Oh my gosh, what an incredible way. Like, of course, that's incredible. Amazing.
Right? How does that
Oh,
not light you up?
right. Very cool. And so tell our listeners, what's your chapter folk? I'm assuming, but I'm not going to assume. I'm going to what is your chapter? What stereotype is your chapter? Give us a little
So
tease, if you will.
my chapter is called Pivoting for Power, Peace, and Purpose.
Ooh.
And it is. I think your assumption is probably right. It's about leaving the stereotypical bedside in the medical
Mm,
world and doing something that benefits my mental health versus
mm,
just sticking with it because that's what you're supposed to do when you have a doctorate degree, right? Like I did it for me and I did it for my family and I did it for my future, really, so that I could come out on the other side of that and do bigger, better things with my life.
I did it for me
So,
and I did it for my family and I did it for my future. That's
absolutely.
so
Yeah.
beautiful. I think it's so empowering and women need to hear that. Like, you're never
Mhm.
stuck.
Exactly.
You can always choose a different way and you can create your own way. Like, you don't have to stay,
Absolutely.
if you're in a room where you're being disrespected or you're not valued, you don't have to stay in that room. There's always going to be another room for you and you can create the room. Like, you
100%.
can totally
Yes.
create it. That's beautiful. Oh, I can't wait to read it.
Thank you. Yeah,
So
I'll get the
cool.
link over to you after we're done here.
Yes. So I would love to hear from you, Kaitlyn. Who is a woman in history that just really has inspired you? I'd love for you to tell our listeners and maybe tell a story about her.
Sure, sure. So I'm actually going to pick two, which is probably
Yay!
breaking the rules. But hey,
Break
I'm
all
all
the
about
rules, girl. I love it.
all right. Um, and there's a reason behind it. So
Mm,
my two women in my history are my mom and my aunt, very near and dear to my heart for kind of different reasons. I mean, your mom is your mom, right? Like we all have that special bond. But my mom is a 4'11" pistol of a woman who has just my entire life been a force. And she's a force and she doesn't even know it. Like that's the most amazing
mm,
about it is she's not boastful about it or overly proud. You know what I mean? She's just a force to be reckoned with. Like she's just a fireball. And I love that about her. And it's been just watching her life unfold. So a little backstory on her. She went through a pretty rough divorce
mm,
about 6 years ago and watching her go from this highly dependent woman who always was just fierce even then, but now moving into this independent life that she never expected to have, and watching her just come out on the other side of it, you know, overcome the brokenness and just become this independent, fierce woman has been so awesome. And just such a lesson for me to know that, like, when life throws you curveballs, you can still rise and thrive and come out on the other side of that more beautiful and more powerful than before. So that's my woman number one. And then my
Mm.
other is my aunt Barbara. She is she's like the most saintly human I know. She does nothing but give of herself to other people, and she's always been that way. Unfortunately, she was not able to have children, so all of all of us cousins became her kids, and the way she loved on us and the way she's loved on my kids now even is just a beautiful testament to like the kind of human she is. She took in my grandparents when they were not well enough to live on their own anymore. They moved in with her. She actually built onto her home so that they could like stay there and be comfortable. And she continues to do that now. My grandfather passed in 2020, but my grandmother still lives with her, and she's battling fairly really bad dementia. And my aunt's patience with her is just beyond measure. And she's just a wonderful, wonderful human.
Mm. Somehow I feel like you and I are twins a little bit, Kaitlyn.
Oh,
I haven't. This is like so. I feel like there's so many similarities. I have an aunt too who I adore, who never married, and I remember when I was a teenager, I used to go and stay with her on the weekends sometimes, and we'd snuggle up in her bed and we'd watch old black and white movies, and
I
we'd
love
bake
it.
oatmeal chocolate chip cookies together. And to this day, her oatmeal chocolate chip cookie recipe is like my go-to favorite. And my girls now they know how to bake it too. So I love that both of those, and I think it's beautiful the journey. And say my mom went through a very difficult divorce when I was a teenager, and I watched the same thing. I watched her go from being, a stay-at-home mom who was very dependent to, finding her own way, thriving on her own,
Right.
buying her own house, getting a job, and all of those. Watched her take those steps after going through a really, really devastating divorce, and it was really, really empowering for me
Mm-hmm.
to see her be able to do that and come on the other side.
Absolutely.
What have you mentioned that your mom, that you loved that she was able to show that independence. What did she do that you really admired after? Like, what was the process like for her of kind of like coming into her own? And what do you have any specific memories or stories of her going through that process that you just like really admired?
I think that I took a picture of her not long after she found out about everything going on in her marriage, and just it just still sticks with me. And we were on a hike with my sister at her wedding. My sister is the most outdoorsy person you'll ever meet, and so of course we incorporated hiking into her wedding events. I am not that person, but anyways,
Yeah.
I have this picture of my mom, and I think of this book titled like Fiercely Forging Forward and how much that aligns with her. She's walking down the
Mm.
mountain and like way ahead of everybody, like always. Like she's always just like been a
Mm.
fast walker and just like, keep up, come on, girls. And I think of that picture every time I think of her overcoming everything, because it was like her life was this build up to this moment of destruction, which was kind of like
Mm.
this peak in a weird way. And now it's like everything else is just sort of coming easy to her in a way that I like. She probably doesn't feel that at all. She probably still feels broken and like battered, but oh my gosh, just to watch her just fiercely forge through her life, and like every day waking up and just putting one foot in front of the other and just keeping on. Like she's just
Mm.
amazing in that. And I took this picture of her walking down this mountain, and it was like, Mom, I have no doubt in my mind, like you're gonna be just fine. Like you're just gonna keep going and you're gonna be great at it. no matter what you do. And I don't know, that picture in that moment just really sticks out in my mind for her, is like, I've gotten over the hardest thing. I can do anything now. Like she's just powerful. And like I said before, it's like she doesn't even see that in herself. And so just to see how humbled she is and not proud and not boastful is, it's just, I think it's a lot of why I am the way I am. I try to be like her and try to stay humble and stay, yeah, I don't know. She's just a really amazing woman.
Yeah, it sounds like she's really been able to, I don't want to say take the high road, but that's what came into my mind
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah.
Like, she's kind of like, she's not going to let the past define her. Yeah, she's not going to let it stop her or keep her down.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that visual that you mentioned, that she was walking ahead of you,
Mm,
because she, like, everything that you see her doing is just showing you the way. Like,
absolutely.
she overcame something incredibly difficult, and you now, you've seen her do that. Now you know what's possible for you too. Like, mom can do it. I can get through anything too,
Yeah,
because she
exactly.
showed me that she can do it. And I think that's so important and beautiful, like a
Mhm.
beautiful legacy that she's leaving for you. That, because we all have our dark moments. We
Oh
all
gosh.
do.
Yes.
Nobody is immune from them.
Sadly.
And I know, I know that sounds kind of sad, right? Like, we all are, but
No,
it's
it's
what's beautiful. What you said is, like, when you shared about how there was so much ease for her on the other side, right?
Mhm.
Like, every time we have these dark moments, once we kind of pull ourselves out of those dark moments, what's on the other side waiting for us
Mhm.
is such clarity,
Mhm.
curiosity, joy, purpose,
Right.
growth. It's really,
Well, and like
it's
she's
incredible.
gotten to, because of this divorce, it's obviously thrown her life on a completely different trajectory that, like I said, she wasn't expecting. But she is the one grandparent to my kids that's here, that's around, that is, just always accessible. And that's such a beautiful gift that, like, I wouldn't have probably had otherwise. And so I'm so weirdly grateful that her life took the path it did, because it's gotten me so much closer to her. We have such a great friendship and just mother daughter bond now, and I'm able to spend time with her, on the regular. It's not just like a once a quarter my parents are going to fly in and visit the grandkids. It's she's around and she's living here and she's in our lives. And I can't say that about literally any of the other grandparents in my kids' lives, because they're all everywhere. Like they live in other places and it's just not as convenient. So it's been a huge blessing and a huge gift.
Oh, I love that. And what have you noticed most about the time that she's able to give to you and to your kids? What have you noticed about what's kind of transformed in your life and their life because she's around?
I feel like because she's around, my kids have her joy and they have her fun spirit. They really do. Like my
Mm.
mom is crazy. She'll be the first to tell you she's wild and crazy and just a bucket of fun. Um, and she's just a kid at heart. And so to see her around them, I mean, it's like instantaneous. When she walks through the door, my girls are like alive and happy and just silly, right? Like she brings that out in them, where I'm a little bit more straight laced and serious and like, just a controlling mom, right?
So much more than that.
Well,
Yeah. But yeah, I understand.
the
Yeah.
kids would probably argue otherwise, but um, anyway, seeing her around them and just being that source of light in their lives and that source of
Mm.
joy is really, I think, what the biggest impact I get to witness, and it's beautiful.
She's showing them joy and fun.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Isn't it amazing too, like, when you go through the dark moments, how much more joyful you are? Like, you
Yes.
just appreciate it so
Yeah,
much
there's
more.
so much gratitude on the other side of a hard time for all the good. I was gonna say, I think the
You're
hard
saying,
times give us that chance to recognize that the good is really so good. You know what I mean? If we didn't have those hard times to juxtapose with the good, we would never recognize the good as for as good as it is. And I think that's really special.
Yeah, and it's clear, like with your mom, that she sees that in the time she spends with you and with her
Mhm.
girls. Like it's just all the joy, and she's just loving it up.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
my mom's the same. My mom is like always look on the bright side of life kind of a woman. Like nothing gets her down for long. She's like a bucket of sunshine. Sometimes I'm like, Mom, are you ever sad? Like, you know, like, it's okay to be sad sometimes. Like she's just always joyful. And I just love that about her. But I think life has taught her to
Mhm.
just be so grateful
Yes,
for the little things, you know?
absolutely.
And it's interesting, like even today when I was like literally I'm at the gas station doing the most benign thing. I'm filling my tank up with gas, Kaitlyn. And I'm sitting there and it's kind of like this spring breezy day. It's like maybe 52 degrees. Sitting there at the gas tank waiting for my tank to fill and the breeze is blowing across my face. And in that moment, I was so present and it was such a like the I just love this is sounds so crazy, but I was just loving the breeze blowing across my face and the way it felt on my skin. And I was so present in that
Mhm.
moment. And it was
Love it.
such a like little glimmer of joy, you know,
Yes.
that I was so grateful for. And I think sometimes it's like it's those little small moments
Mhm.
that if we just allow them, if we just allow ourselves to find pleasure in them,
Yes.
there's such joy in that,
Well, and
you
there's
know?
infinite small moments, right? Like we can, I like to call it romanticizing the mundane. It's like if you can find
Mhm.
the joy in those tiny moments, it just makes life magical when otherwise you could
Mhm.
just be floating through without intention, without purpose, and without paying attention. I think that's really the biggest thing is it's just that perspective shift of I can make this cup of coffee at this coffee shop be the most magical moment of my day, right? Like I can open my book and I can just soak in the vibes and I don't know what's so special about that. But like you, like the breeze, it's so true. You just have to stop and pay attention and allow your perspective to shift to seeing that beauty around you. And oh, it's a craft you really have to hone, but once you get it, it's like it's everywhere. There's so much good around us.
Man, I love what you said about romanticizing the mundane. What are some mundane things that you love to romanticize?
A good coffee shop vibe is my absolute favorite.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Like if I can go and just be at a coffee shop for an hour by myself with a book, I am like in heaven. I love that. Um, Other things are just like stepping out on my back patio and like feeling the sun on my skin, like kind of like with you, it's the
Mm.
breeze, but like I love the feeling of like the warmth hitting my skin. Like I live my life freezing cold and like in sweaters in the summertime. And so getting the warmth or like even this sounds so silly and people think I'm crazy for it, but like in Texas, where I'm at, it's, 110 in the summertime. And I love like the first 30 seconds in the car when my AC hasn't quite reached its full potential yet and it's really hot and I'm just like, "Oh, this feels so good." The weird
Interesting.
thing about it.
Oh, I love
I
it.
love that moment. It's so great. But it's because I'm
I love
really
that's so cool. I love that. I love the the coffee shop vibe. That's really cool. What's your coffee of choice?
Oh, I love a good latte. A good half
Mm.
sweet latte. Like nothing too sweet, but not too bitter. It's got to have the pretty little leaf on top and, not in a to go cup. It's got to be ceramic.
I love that. Yeah. I love how you shared too that like romanticizing the mundane is a craft that you have to hone.
Mhm. Mm.
Tell me more about that. Like how do you recommend honing that craft or what have you done to hone that craft for yourself?
So for me personally, and I know this isn't everyone's cup of tea or coffee, um, I noticed that I got really good at this when I started writing.
Mhm.
Because when I was writing, and I write on LinkedIn quite regularly, not quite as regularly as I'd like to these days, but I noticed that when I was searching for a topic to talk about, I had to pay attention to the world around me. I had to turn my eyes and ears on more often and be more present in order to write things that resonate with people and to write things that come from my heart. Otherwise, if I'm just going through the motions and not really looking up ever, I don't get that good quality content to write about. And so for me, it was sort of this journey of needing to write as a form of therapy. But in doing so, I found that I paid more attention and I became more present, and I just became more aware of these beautiful moments around me. And I've had this kind of guiding principle when I write, is that I try to put a positive spin on everything. I don't want to put
Mm.
negativity out into the world if I can help it. And so in doing so, and in honing that craft, I think I've found a new lens in my life to look through and just recognize that there is so much positivity around us if only we just look.
Mm. I love that. I love to write too.
Mm,
That's
so
Kaitlyn, I tell you,
therapeutic.
we're like twins or something. It's like so therapeutic, and you hit the nail on the head. It really does. I don't want to say force, because there's no force to
Right.
me about writing. It's
Right.
like a beautiful release.
Oh, I love that.
But there's like it just allows you to see the world in a completely different way. It's like a
Right.
self-reflection, a way for you to self-reflect. And I think that's just such beautiful advice for people. Maybe for listeners, maybe you may not like to write, but it's the act of creating something
Right.
that allows you to see and appreciate more. Like we had a guest on the show who was saying that she was in Italy and she was painting and she saw things that she would have never seen before, that little details that she noticed because she was painting it that she
Oh,
wouldn't
I
have seen
love that.
otherwise. And I thought
Yes.
that was just really special. So
Like,
I would love to know a little. I'm so curious, Kaitlyn, to know about your journey to, like, what was kind of the breaking point, if you will,
mm.
for you when you were in the workplace and you kind of had recognized the toxicity that you were in. What was the breaking point for you? And what was it that made you kind of realize what was happening, see it for what it was, and decide, I'm going to choose a different way?
So I guess the most poignant moment for me came probably multiple times, but there was one day when I think it just hit really hard. I would always feel very anxious on my drive into work when I was,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I worked for multiple organizations where I experienced toxicity, but this sort of first one is where I recognized what it was and how to avoid it and all the things. While I was at that job, um, and mind you, this was only, I don't know, 2, 3 years into my career. So this is early in my career. I recognized
Mm,
this.
yeah.
But on that drive into work, and my child was in the back seat because I had to take her to the daycare right next to my work. That drive into work was always the worst. It was like the anxiety would just build up in me, and like white knuckling it, like just breathless. And
Mm,
I remember one day I literally felt the urge to like let go of the wheel and like let my car go off the overpass. And I called my organization Face with Grace, because I looked up in my rearview mirror and I saw my daughter. And that moment,
mm,
it was like she was she was God in my back seat. She is every reason why I'm still here today. I'm sorry. I struggle to
no,
tell this without crying, but
it's okay.
she is why I came out on the other side of that, and why I chose a different path, and why I think it's so important that I use this moment and this opportunity to like still be breathing, to share this message and this mission with other women so that they don't have to experience it as well. Um,
Mm,
it was just such a hard hitting moment that no woman should ever have to go through. No human should ever have to go through it. But I just, and no workplace should ever make you feel that way. It's just
mhm.
awful. My
You
mental
spend
health
so
was
many hours
awful. Yeah.
there. Yeah, you spend so many hours of your day at work.
Right.
And you're absolutely right. It's oh, thank you for sharing such a
Yeah.
vulnerable moment. I
Sorry.
really can't tell you how much I appreciate your vulnerability. It's so it's empowering, and it's important for women to see other women being vulnerable and sharing. And I just want to applaud you for that.
Thank you.
It's needs to be shared. I think one of the things that's so difficult about these kinds of experiences where you're in toxic situations is the secrecy and the isolation that you feel,
Yes.
because you don't know where's a safe place, and you don't know if you're overreacting, or you don't know, like you doubt yourself. And
Absolutely.
I firmly believe the more that we talk about these experiences, the more we share, then it just brings people together and removes the feeling of being isolated and alone that people feel so commonly. I mean,
Absolutely.
I can totally feel what you were feeling in that moment. I've been there,
Yeah.
and I've been at the bottom,
Mm.
and I've totally understand
Yeah.
how difficult it is.
With toxicity in the workplace, I think the hardest thing about it when it comes to not only calling it out and recognizing it for what it is, but navigating through it is that it's so much microaggression that to call out
Yep.
any one moment is so it feels ridiculous when you're when
So
you're
true.
in it, right? Like, oh, she looked at me weird, or that email had a certain tone to it. Like, you can't say that to people. They'll be like, can you get over it? You know?
Exactly.
And so it's this collection of all this microaggression that wells up inside of you and becomes that moment in the
Mhm.
car when you want to run it off the road because it just builds and builds and
Yeah.
builds and builds and builds. And to say anything about it along the way feels like that's silly. Why do I need to be
Because
so
it
sensitive about this, you know?
Oh, you're so right, because so the microaggressions is so true. Like, people, unless you're in it and you're
Right.
experiencing it, it's extremely difficult to explain it to people in a way that they can understand.
Absolutely.
And I think you hit the nail on the head too. I thought found it very illuminating when you were sharing how you were in the car and you were white knuckling it.
Mhm.
It's the physical sensations that your body is telling you that tell you that you're in an unhealthy situation. You have to listen to your body. What is your body telling
Oh my
you,
gosh,
right? Like,
100%.
your body was telling you, like, what was that? You were not safe.
I don't think
Like,
I was breathing for 3 years at that job. Like, I left and I stepped
mm,
into a new role, and it was literally like I could just take a deep breath again. It was so empowering and just so eye opening. It wasn't, I mean, it literally took months, even years, to really come to the realization of what I had gone through, honestly. Like, looking back and
yeah,
unpacking it all and analyzing it all for what it was. But like, just being out of it and just removing myself from that environment was a true, literal breath of fresh air. And that was very
yeah,
telling to me. It was like, oh, wow, I didn't know I had been holding my breath. I knew that my extra small scrubs were falling off my body because I was losing weight and couldn't control it. That was a sign I should have probably paid more attention to, right? I could tell
yeah,
that I wasn't eating right. I wasn't taking care of myself, but I just thought, oh, I'm just grinding because I'm a leader and that's what leaders do. And no, like, full stop, no. Like, we cannot do that to ourselves. We have got to pay attention. You are so, so right. And I wish I would have paid more attention then, but now I know.
and now you're here to help.
Yes,
That's the beautiful part about it being on the other side, is now you're in a place where you can give back and
mm,
show the way.
absolutely, absolutely.
Um, and I think that that is so beautiful and honorable of you,
Thank you.
to be able to do that. But yeah, I like the fact that you shared, like, you could take a deep breath. It's like, that's important too for people to know, like, what does your body feel like when it feels safe?
Yes.
And when it feels safe, you can have those deep breathing in your diaphragm. Your heart's not racing. Your stomach doesn't feel upset.
Mm,
You don't have back pain. Like,
right.
it's those physical, like, your body knows and speaks to you.
Mhm.
And
And
I
also
just,
that
yeah, go ahead.
that little voice, right? Like, we all have that little voice inside of us that's saying, "This isn't right.
Yes.
You are not crazy." You know what I mean? Like, it's telling us all along. And we're just stuck listening to the outside information that's coming into us that's saying, oh, if you can't handle this, well, maybe you're not in the right role. Or do you need to take a mental health day because you don't seem like you're doing well, and we need you to be at your on your A game? Like those things that are jabs that feel like, oh, well, I must be crazy. I must, I must isolate and just take this
Mm-hmm.
all in. We can't just listen to that. We have to listen to our inner voice as well. I cannot stress that enough because that voice was there all along telling me something's not right here. Something is deeply, inherently wrong with the culture in this organization. But I ignored it. I think we all do that.
We do. You're so, I mean, I have too. And so like what would you advise? How can we get better at not ignoring that voice?
I think we have to be open minded enough to hear it and listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not only hearing it, it's listening as well, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
two part journey there. But I think we have to really craft our inner voice to being one that is being positive towards ourselves and showing self-love. And there's a lot of like self-awareness practice in that comes along with it. But if we are constantly, in our inner monologue saying, you're not good enough, you need to be tougher, you need to stick it out, we are turning that inner voice that's supposed to be saving us into one that is beating us down. And that is not okay. We have the power to control that voice, and we have the mental capacity to listen and really hear the message it's trying to tell us. And I think that it's that combination of speaking positively to ourselves, but listening closely to the message that our gut is really trying to tell us.
That is so beautifully said. It's in order for us to be able to listen and notice and act on that inner voice, it starts with having the self-compassion
Yes,
so that we can really tune into it
100%.
and giving ourselves grace and teaching ourselves to change those negative thought patterns that like the self-critic that sits on our shoulder. I have a very strong self-critic too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like being able to recognize that the self-critic is there and going to be there, but saying, I hear you,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not going to give you a voice.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
you're there, you're going to go to the back of the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
then like, giving yourself intent. It takes
Oh my
intentionality.
gosh.
It takes so much intentionality. You have to really give time to giving yourself that
And I
compassion.
think it comes full circle to that romanticizing the mundane, right? Like getting comfortable
Totally.
with being alone. Get
Yes.
comfortable with me time that is like real me time, right? Not me time and going hanging
Yeah.
out with girls, me time going and playing with kids. No, me time where you are like by yourself with your thoughts, with your inner voice, with your
Yes.
self love. You have to like wrap yourself in that in order to get to that place. It doesn't just happen overnight. It doesn't just happen by willing it to be there. You have to practice it. And it's hard. It's so hard for some people. I've come to
Oh,
love it, but I didn't love it at first. Not at all.
I totally agree. Man, I swear we're twins. So my 3 years ago, I started working with an executive coach, and I was like total workaholic, addicted to work. And I remember she challenged me one day. She said, Nicole, have you ever just spent time with yourself? And I looked at her, I'm like, what would I do? Like, what do I do?
Where do we go?
She's like, what if you just sit and be with yourself? Okay. So I did. And I kept feeling like I had to force a conversation with myself,
Mhm.
you know? And I went back to my next session. I was like, it was so awkward. I was like waiting for myself to tell me what it needed. And I couldn't, like, I didn't know what to do. And she's like, what if you just be with yourself? Like, just be.
Just
Like,
be.
don't
Oh,
talk, just be. And I'm like, what just be? Like, what is that? Like, I don't know how to just be. I've been going like a in a hamster in a wheel for my whole freaking life, in survival mode. She's like, just be. So I that's what I did. I intentionally, I go sit in my hammock, Kaitlyn, and I
mm,
just sit there and do nothing. I call it my doing
I
nothing,
love it.
literally doing nothing. And it saved my life. It changed me. I like totally, uh, yeah, I'm a huge advocate of it. I think more women need to spend time doing nothing
Mm,
and really like listening to their bodies, because that's when
yes.
you really start to know exactly what you need. And it is uncomfortable. You said it's uncomfortable. It is at first.
Right.
It is. But the more that you do it, the more you kind of crave it,
Mm,
the more you just need it, I
yes,
think.
absolutely.
What has your experience with it?
Mm, I mean, I think, it's like I said, at first it was just foreign, right? It was
Mm,
uncomfortable because it was not my normal. And I think that just trying to find figure out what I liked was a journey for me. Like figuring out
mm,
what was special to me and what moments alone with myself would feel rewarding or feel therapeutic. And that's
mm.
still a journey. I'm still figuring that out. I'm a busy mom. I've got two full-time jobs essentially, and
Yeah.
time for me is hard to find. But even if it's just, hey, babe, you've got the kids. I'm gonna go take a nice long shower and just put a face mask on and stay in the bathroom and not come out for a while. Like that counts, right? It can be simple,
Yeah.
and it can be just it can be the mundane. It can be the absolute every moment to moment pieces of your life that you just find renewed magic in, and renewed peace in, because you're paying attention to it. You're coming to it with that intentionality of like, this is for me so that I can go out and be a better version of myself for the people around me in the world. And I think that's so critical. Another thing that I think really has been a new part of this journey for me, my therapist actually called this out, was going through a hard time. And she said, "What are you listening to?" And
Mm.
I don't know, like Bluey, what?
What mom in this
Right.
country is not listening to Bluey right now, right?
Yeah. The whole theme song just started playing over and over again.
Bluey and Taylor
Right.
Swift.
Yeah. Oh,
Love her to death.
yes. Okay. But no, really, when I thought about it, and that's really just like that question has sat with me over and over and over again. It's like anytime I turn on the TV, anytime I turn on my Apple Music, anytime I turn on whatever I'm turning on, like I come to it a little bit more intentionally now. And I recognize that, like, when I was in that toxic work environment, I found myself gravitating towards like hardcore rap and like angry music and like music that was just like
Interesting.
filled with like this rage. And I think part of that was powerful because
Interesting.
it kind of helped me get angry about it. But in a way, I was like, when I came to the other side of it, I found myself listening to things that were peaceful and like happy and uplifting, and just is such a shift. And I think that plays into so much of like how we behave and how we approach life. Is like, what are we feeding ourselves? What are we listening to? What are we hearing? For people that don't like to write and don't like to go find mundane moments in a
Yeah.
coffee shop, maybe it's being more intentional about what you're feeding your soul and what you're feeding your mind. And I think that's been a huge lesson for me, just to shift that.
That's such a beautiful invitation.
Mm, yeah.
Think about what you're listening to and be very conscious of it.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing it.
Mm.
Well, I would love to know, Kaitlyn, when you think of the word moxie, what does it make you think of? What do you think moxie means to you? And I mean, I feel like you're just full of it. I mean, you've shared multiple stories on the show, but like, do you have a story from your own life where you're like, I totally embodied moxie.
Mm. Well, Moxie to me, honestly, makes me think of this wonderful little restaurant. It's called Moxie's, right down the
How
street
cute.
from me. I'll have to take you sometime. It'd be great.
Yeah.
But it's got a great vibe of like sunshine on a patio and just Aperol spritzes and just happy times.
Love
That's what I
it.
think of. Um,
Love that.
yeah, but your podcast, I love this concept of like just being intentional and thinking about the women that have shaped us. I think that's so
Hmm.
cool. And that's so, like, if I could pick every single woman in my past that has shaped me, I would have, like, to speak about them and just champion the heck out of everything they've done for me. I think it's magical. I think that it's so important for us as women to to look back and recognize and call out the great women that have shaped us, and honestly the not so great women that have shaped us. Like, I learned so much
Amen.
from the women in my life that beat me down, who
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to be and how I didn't want to show up as a leader.
So
And just
true.
looking at both of those and appreciating everything from both sides of the coin.
Yeah. Love that. Oh, I want to go to the Moxie's
Yes, we
and
gotta
have a
go
drink with you.
sometime. It's great.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Kaitlyn. This has been an amazing conversation. I
Yes,
can't
thank
wait for
you.
our listeners to hear it. And
Wonderful.
yeah, I really appreciate you. I appreciate your vulnerability, your authenticity. And I want to hear what are the names of your mom and your aunt? I want to make sure
So my mom is Susan Zeke, and my aunt
Susan.
is Barbara Hutchinson.
Susan and Barbara,
Yes.
you raised an amazing woman. And thank you for telling us today about Susan and Barbara and the impact they had on your life. I'm so glad we could give them a shout out and get to share a little bit of joy to them and give them some love. So, and to all our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, say hello, Moxie. That's a wrap for today's episode of Hello, Moxie. I hope you felt that unbreakable thread connecting you to the women of the past, to the trailblazing pioneers of today. Their stories of audacity, resilience, and courage are a powerful reminder of what's possible for you when you choose to live with Moxie.